the WRPS external website. I'm wondering if we have partners where, it may be triggering for people to come to the WRPS website to apply through that channel. So I'm wondering if we have perhaps partner organizations where we could reach out to them to see if they would also be willing to share the information, just so that we can get as wide a voice in terms of making this known to as many people as possible.
That is a fantastic suggestion, yes, and hopefully I can contact you afterwards to get your thoughts on who those partners should be, because we are welcome to doing this in the best way possible. I would also like to add, as part of the application processes, the applications will be internally reviewed, and we're not looking for responses that align with organizational values. Instead, we're looking for applicants who are able to identify issues and solutions to the issues relevant to their community, so that we can start to make change and move policing services forward. So stated another way, we're welcome to applicants who can be critical of the delivery of police services while identifying solutions to those issues.
Thank you very much. That's great information. Ian, go ahead.
As always, both Chair Redmond and Dr. Schnarr asked my questions because they're way ahead of me. But just following up on that, folks like, and I'm sure you have this, and I think maybe even just getting some input, but Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region and their partner, or the working pillar, the settling and belonging pillar, obviously the not-for-profits. I think it's important to get this wide and not just in the WRPS zone, because I think we'll get a more reflective and diverse group to choose from. So, and we're happy to do that through business organizations and others as well. I think this truly is a community thing that needs a community project. So happy to help cast a wide net as possible.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that help. We will gladly take you up on that.
And Dr. Williams, one of the words that you used that really rang with me was authentic conversations. And I think that those are often difficult, but that's how we tease out the truth and find opportunities for change.
Absolutely. And the framework of community engagement will help us lean into those challenging conversations in a way that promotes action.
Thank you. Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder how we engage our plain Mennonite communities in this process. We typically haven't included them in any of these discussions, but I was berating myself the other day for not to bring that forward a little bit more, because I think they should be part of that if they are willing to be, which is also another question.
Absolutely. So the community advisory group is but one group within this bigger plan. And so if we can, I'm not going to throw up my slides because I'll have technical issues, and apologies, right? But it's that pyramid. So it's making sure that we hit not only our advisory group, but other organized groups and individuals who may not adhere to organized groups, right? So it's making sure that we have community engagement points for each of these levels across the whole strategy, and that is in place.
Thank you very much for that. I see no further questions. We look forward to regular updates and seeing this initiative move forward. So thank you very much for bringing this presentation today. The next item is award of HRIS. There is a motion for this proposal. And Chief, do you want to kick this off, or is this Deputy Krall kicking it off?
We're going to turn it over to Mark.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief. Good morning, Chair Redmond, members of the board. Very pleased to bring forward this proposed award of the HRIS system. This has been a joint undertaking with the region of Waterloo. We're a 1/3 stakeholder in this recommended procurement. Just want to give acknowledgement to our team from Finance and Assets, Kirsten Hand and Scott Agnello, as well as our HR team, Will Peckham and Molly Kimple, as well as Bob Hillhorse from IT, Virginia Torrance from Legal Services, and many others have contributed to the recommendation to date. This is a major undertaking, a total modernization of our core and central administrative system infrastructure. The recommendation, as Kirsten will talk to in a second, has gone through a very robust and guided procurement process with our regional partners. And really, this is seeking to bring us into the 21st century with a reduction of all of our standalone systems to increase all of our data quality, real-time access to services across the system. Will bring peak efficiency to finance and assets, all of our IT functionality, and human resources to provide our members an access point for the services they need. And all this in turn will provide us better, more efficient, and just an overall modernized approach to serving the community from a system and administration standpoint. And we're hopeful that we can move forward with this procurement. So I will turn this over to Kirsten Hand, who can speak to the process and the recommendation that's on the table.
Good morning. Right. So in partnership with the region, we did complete a procurement process. It was a negotiated request for proposal. We had 12 proposals that were received with one that was disqualified. We went through various steps of the evaluation process and had 3 proponents shortlisted to the demo stage. And then through future stages, we had another 2 proponents that were shortlisted and moved to facilitated discovery and best and final offer stages. So throughout that process, we did have a vendor that obtained the highest overall score, and that's PricewaterhouseCoopers with a SAP platform. So it is recommended that we proceed with the vendor, PricewaterhouseCoopers. The contract, which includes both WRPS and ROW, totals approximately $10 million plus taxes. Exact dollars are in the report before you. We have until October 28th to accept this proposal. As noted on the WRPS portion of the contract, in the report it notes the adjustments that would need to be made through the 2023 budget process. We will need to increase the budget from a capital perspective. However, we have identified funding for that from our capital reserve. And then we have a slight increase on our operating budget perspective. So before you is the motion. It's to accept the award or the proposal from PricewaterhouseCoopers with an estimated upset limit of $9,998,733 plus all applicable taxes. Now, this award is subject to the negotiation of the contract with PwC, but as well the receipt of confirmation from the region of Waterloo that they approve and are able to contribute all required financial contributions.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. And Deputy Crowell, you gave a shout out to your team, but I want to give you a shout out too, because this has been a long and arduous process to get us to this point. So colleagues, we're being asked to consider our portion of this negotiated contract with PwC, subject to participation by the region of Waterloo. Karen, go ahead.
Thank you. And I want to pick up on that last point, if I could. I note in the materials that this was, we embarked with the region on a joint procurement process back in November of 2021. I commend the service for, it was a robust procurement process in terms of everything that was followed. It's been budgeted for, in our last year capital, budget. These things have been appropriately budgeted for as well in terms of our costs. I just wanted to get a sense here, just because in reading this, as Deputy Crowell pointed out, we are but a third of the cost structure in this. So I know that we're looking to have this approved for the end of October. So this is our approval process to move this procurement piece forward. I am assuming that the region is also moving forward in the same timeframe with an approval process as well, to confirm their involvement and commitment to the procurement process they signed up with us on back in November 2021.
So who could speak to that? Is that?
That may be unfair because it's, that's, asking about what the region is doing, but I guess I'm just looking for confirmation that the region is continuing to be our partner in this and so that we aren't surprised on October 29th in terms of this.
Thank
This
you. Chief Goodman's going to jump in, I think.
Yeah, this is Mark's project, so we'll have Mark respond.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Schnarr. Yeah, I failed to recognize the counterparts on the regional side that matched all of the members that I raised, because this has been a joint enterprise. We've led the formal procurement, but I can attest that we're having daily and very active opportunities to advance this the best that we can. Today, we're presenting the award for our formal portion of this. And obviously the contingency is the regional Waterloo working through their current budgeting cycle, both operating and capital for 2023 and beyond. Can't speak for the region, but I can speak to the shared commitment that we have to this project, this current procurement. And we're very hopeful that we'll be able to advance this as a collective because what we learned through the early stages of the guided procurement and all of the months of work that has gone into is if we can get this right as a region, we'll be at very hopefully peak efficiency for both organizations, and that's the undertaking that's before us. And we're very hopeful that we can carry through to match other jurisdictions that have successfully implemented a joint enterprise. And it's not only speaks to the future operating of shared systems, but also the significant cost related to this project is the implementation. That is a multi-stage, multi-year process. So the talent that we would need to collectively onboard to actually do the work to get the systems up and running, we're hopeful from an HR standpoint, from an IT standpoint, we can continue forward. So in closing and in response, if there's any future contemplation that we can't fulfill the procurement as it's presented today, we will certainly come back to the board with options to consider about what might be before us at that point in time. But we're before you recommending that we adhere to the deadlines that we're working with PwC and our regional counterparts.
So just
Karen?
so if I can sort of summarize what I heard is that if for whatever reason the region decides now that this isn't something that they want to participate in, and I buy all of your reasons as to why this is something that we need, and it's important for us to be an efficient, modern policing organization going forward. You've got me in that. It's just more of the risk mitigation piece of this, that if for whatever reason that they are not able to stay with us as partners, there is a plan B out there that we can look at to make sure that we do have these modern systems in place going forward, ideally.
In short, yes. We're contemplating those scenarios and very hopeful that we can meet the deadlines, and credit to PwC who's allowed us latitude to work with all the many factors that go into such a massive undertaking and investment in our community. So the answer is yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Sandy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I support the initiative. I think we need to go ahead with it. But my question is, when you were looking at it, in a lot of respects, HR is HR, but was there anything significantly different in our needs as opposed to the region's needs that you can just talk about?
Kirsten, maybe just from a shared system standpoint, you might be able to provide the best answer for this.
Definitely we have common needs in terms of, and we're in a common situation where we have obsolete, separate, not integrated systems, and in some case, no system, so completely manual processes, which opens up all sorts of inefficiencies and errors. So we're in very similar situations from, that perspective. I would say that we were perhaps have in a bit of a worse state compared to the region, because we have very complex collective agreements, and we have a complex work schedules and the way that we operate in comparison to the region can be a little bit more complex. So some of these systems that may work adequately for them have been very troublesome for us and has required a lot of manual workarounds in order to try to force them to work. But from a core perspective, we were very similar in terms of the areas that we needed to invest in. And throughout the process, there was some conversations around, what if we kind of are at different spectrums in terms of evaluation and our needs, but we were always able to come together and be united throughout the process in terms of the evaluation throughout the procurement process.
Sandy,
you.
any further? Okay. Ian, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Redmond. I'll start with the operating impact if we do proceed. And you talked about a slight operating budget impact. I presume for this year it's being absorbed through our operating budget. The operating costs are being absorbed by the service, and that it would be part of the moving forward, the 23 budget moving forward in terms of operating of the additional costs, since we had speculated what it would be as you were going through. So there's and it is modest, but it's being covered internally this year, and then moving forward, it'll be part of the 2023 budget process.
Yes, we actually have a budget this year. We had assumed that we would start this project earlier, but we're not actually utilizing any of it because we don't have any annual licensing costs that we have to incur. So from a pure 2022 to 2023 perspective, we'll see a slight increase of about 46K. And then going forward, we see an increase of about 20K. And then actually, if we see a decrease as some of the systems come offline of about 12K. So when you compare those costs, annual costs, compared to the efficiencies that we see in terms of staff time, it is a very small piece, as the deputy mentioned, a very small piece of the overall cost of the project. The more major cost is related to the implementation of the system itself.
Okay, thank you for that. The time is of the essence, and I appreciate everyone is going forward with positive, but we're in the 9th inning where you've got a contract date of October 28th. We've approved this. And I'm not an expert on municipal affairs, but the election's on the 24th. I don't know whether it's an administrative decision or if council will have to move forward. So it leads to the question, what happens if they're not able to make a decision by October 28th? We could potentially lose the contract, certainty of the cost that's there, and they've been working with us. And I think to Dr. Schnarr's question, we say that there are backup plans, because I think we need to understand, do we start at square one again, or will this board say get options from the chief and the senior executive team about how we proceed if we needed to do it alone, and what implications that would have?
So fair questions and fair points of consideration. I think we have to be careful with divulging, potentially what those future scenarios might be in any great detail, considering that the guidelines of the procurement have been quite specific. So as we've contemplated options for potentially change of scope, potentially change of direction, we've always need to adhere as a collective on the RFP that was made public. And so I can just confirm with the board that we would certainly be prepared, should this not proceed as planned or as desired, to come back with a variety of options. But that may be an entirely new undertaking of procurement that is, before us.
Any further questions, Ian?
Thank you.
Okay, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Just 2 points of clarification. The first is within the report, it says the system will not be implemented until 2023. I presume implementation is probably not going to occur in 2023, just given timing, to go for training, etc. So that's my first point of clarification. If someone could provide a little bit more detail on that. Is that a correct assumption or presumption?
Definitely, it's the definition of implementation for sure. In terms of a cutover date, absolutely not it wouldn't be the
Okay.
beginning of 2023. That would be a later date, but the actual work of implementing the system and doing all the steps required to get us to cut over would begin at the beginning of 2023.
My next question is more logistical and maybe financial. I was wondering, is there any contingency built into this? And I ask because I noted a comment that there is no post-implementation resources allocated, and I'm concerned about that post-implementation resources, because there's usually always post-implementation resources required in these system changes. So the two go hand in hand for me.
Kirsten?
I think that as the DC mentioned, part of the costs in terms of implementation is the actual contract with PwC, but part of that is the internal resources required. And we've been quite conservative with that allocation that I think would give us some contingency in terms of the implementation of the project. The system itself is a cloud system, so doesn't require the same staffing requirements as kind of older systems that are more on-premise. We have done a reallocation within the budget, I think it was about a year ago, to identify a couple positions within our organization that would support the HRIS system. So we've kind of built some kind of future capacity into our existing FTE structure. But definitely, as we go through this project, we'll continue to assess that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Usually, in the post-implementation, these systems are not made to be perfect for every organization. So there's always little tweaks that you have to go back to the supplier and ask them to change. And they don't usually do that gratuitously. They always want a fee attached. So I just wanted to raise that, but it sounds like there's some contingency there. So thank you.
So colleagues, thank you for your questions. I see no more raised hands. Is somebody prepared to move this? Okay, moved by Tony, seconded by Sandy. Please show your support by raising your hand that we would accept this proposal. That is carried, colleagues. Thank you. Safe Semester 2022 for information. Deputy Hilton, are you introducing this?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Chair Redmond. Earlier, you heard from Superintendent Bursey, who provided an update and a summary of a single major event that happened within Safe Semester itself. Safe Semester is a separate operational plan and project that took place over a 5-week period, all under the leadership of Inspector Beth Houston, who is here this morning, who will provide an update of the conclusion of this particular project. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning, Deputy. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Redmond and members of the board. It's nice to be back with you again. So this morning, I have the pleasure of running you through the highlights of the 2022 Safe Semester project. I'm going to start by giving credit where credit is due. This year's operational plan was developed by Staff Sergeant Jason Mulholland and Constable Chris McPherson of the Community Engagement and Wellbeing Branch, and they did a really excellent job of developing a very comprehensive plan. So this year's project ran from Monday, August the 22nd through to Friday, September the 23rd, ending with the homecoming operational plan and event on the 24th, which Superintendent Bursey already reviewed for you. Our consistent theme throughout the duration of the plan was strict enforcement with emphasis on community safety. We achieved this through high visibility police presence that had positive, proactive, and preventative approaches to deter any unlawful activity and public disorder. Safe Semester was led by the Direct Action Response Team, or DART, who closely collaborated with our community partners such as City of Waterloo Bylaw Enforcement Services and the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. This year, for statting purposes, we decided to take advantage of our new business intelligence tools to pull data and supply our statistics. These tools assisted in providing us with an efficient and accurate way of extracting data that could be easily duplicated. The total number of charges laid in the 2022 project was 833, which is up significantly from other recent years, including pre-pandemic years. The bulk of these charges, almost 500, came from Highway Traffic Act enforcement around the core. It's also been determined that this is the last year that the Safe Semester operational plan is going to rest with community engagement and well-being. There's going to be a bit of a handoff for the plan next year. The 2023 plan will be written and overseen by our major events unit. And this makes a lot of sense because they already have carriage of the homecoming operational plan. So Safe Semester and homecoming really blend into each other, and having one unit control both of these will provide a very consistent point of contact and communication for our community partners. So that's the high level summary of Safe Semester. It really was quite successful. We're super appreciative of our community partners and also members of the community for their role in making this year's plan safe and successful.
Thank you so much, Inspector Houston. Do we have any questions or comments? It sounds like another successful event, and the change in 2023 seems to be consistent with a seamless path between Safe Semester as well as homecoming. So that's terrific. Thank you very much, colleagues. This is for information. So I see no questions. So again, thank you very much. The next agenda item is innovation in police administration. This too is for information. And I believe Deputy Crowell is going to kick this off.
Thank you, Chair Redmond. Yeah, it's a proud day to bring forward the next two reports. Not to oversell, but this is a couple of years of incredible work from across our organization. Really, our commitment to administrative excellence has been carried through a couple of projects, and they're going to turn it over in a moment to Kate Richardson to walk you through it. But just want to highlight with the board, in these trying times of looking for financial efficiencies, looking to adapt and modernize to an increasingly digital reality, looking at the pandemic impacts and our commitment to continuous improvement. These next few projects are just going to highlight how our organization has been really nimble, agile, and able to deliver on some cost avoidance, some operational administrative efficiency, and just a really incredible undertaking that had members right across the service working many months to provide today's presentation. So Kate, I'll turn it over to you to walk through the administrative staffing alignment project and the operation review out of our court system, and look forward to hearing this. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Redmond. Good morning, members of the board. This morning, I'm going to walk us through a very high-level overview of some of the work we've been undertaking since 2021. I'm just going to start by advancing my slides. I hope everybody can see that, and we're good to go with technology. Wonderful. So the purpose is to talk about some of our innovation initiatives, and our next presentation also is going to provide another example of an innovation initiative we've been working on in administrative support. But these initiatives this morning touch on many strategic business plan innovation objectives, and you'll see those listed on your slide. Everything from alternative service delivery and looking at our civilian professional roles and responsibilities, but we also had a commitment to centralize the Crown disclosure process within the strategic plan. So these initiatives achieve those goals and objectives. In terms of kind of some of the impetus for this work, the administrative support branch, of course, aligns its vision with that of the strategic plan and of the service. We have an engaged collaborative team who are recognized as leaders in police administration. We focus on several areas in terms of goals and objectives in our branch, which are informed by the operational plan. Some examples, we provide a lot of partnership at the provincial and federal levels for policy in relation to evidence management, information management, and of our court services practices. We also have several culture engagement groups within our branch to ensure a healthy and inclusive workplace for our team members. Our goals, a lot of which we talk about in our branch, and then again underpins all of the work we've done with some of these projects. Customer service excellence is something we talk about quite frequently. Our services are to our fellow members, but they're also public facing, including our records check service delivery is one example. We are committed to automating our processes as much as possible, going electronic, and really alleviating the administrative burden to our members, but also to the public. And looking at ways to streamline and create efficiencies in police administration. Third is the one branch, one team goal, which is really built across the entire service. But a lot of our work is about ensuring that we're working as a collective team to advance the administrative priorities and ensure regulatory compliance, as opposed to individual work teams kind of siloed in their own groups. There are a lot of expectations and pressures, much of which is driven by legislation and regulation. There's not much, I couldn't think really of anything in our branch that we do that I can't trace back to a legislative requirement, most of which flows from the Police Services Act, but also a lot that flows from case law. I provided some examples for you there of how case law is really driving the efficient and comprehensive requirements for disclosure. Disclosure obligations are more and more versus less and less. Everything from reasonable timeframes with the Jordan decision to ensuring that we're providing 911 audio footage as first disclosure, and criminal records of different witnesses also part of case law. And these developments have happened over the last few years. We also, of course, have our legislative mandate for court security and prisoner care and control. And I'll talk a little bit about the funding that we receive for that, but we are responsible for security at 85 Frederick. That includes security of the judiciary, the crowns, and the staff on site, but also the public at that building, and the care of persons while they are in our custody. Other expectations and pressures, we pay really close attention to our member survey. One of the things that we are laser focused on as a leadership team is an uneven distribution of workload. As legislation changes, new expectations of our customers, we have to make sure those workloads remain manageable for our team and that they are working as a cohesive unit to address them. There are staffing of multiple teams that we have under our branch responsibility. We have new changing environments. So we are opening a new central cell block in 2023 that will bring different types of technology, coupled with ongoing expectations that also escalate in terms of responsibilities that we have for persons in our care when they are in custody. Provincial changes. So we have seen a complete shift because of the pandemic, and we are still seeing a hybrid of in-person and virtual attendance for court appearances. Virtual appearances require a different type of service delivery to make sure those occur. We're seeing a shrinking court security and prisoner transportation provincial grant. So over the last couple of years, we've seen a reduction in terms of how much it costs for us to deliver the service and how much money we receive from that grant of about $2.3 million. The grant itself is fixed at $125 million. That's shared amongst all police services that do court security and prisoner transportation, and that money is fixed. So as time goes by and costs increase, the money actually reduces. So we are making changes to make sure that we can best maximize that grant and alleviate new pressures to our budget. We're also expecting to see new requirements set out in the Community Safety and Policing Act, which will be organization-wide, but we know specifically in court security and prisoner care and control, we're going to see changes and requirements, probably increased training as one example for our special constables. You are very much aware that we have a new justice technology that is being implemented by the province and that we are now using. The digital evidence management system is a great example of that. We have, of course, had to build a team to support that system. And digital evidence is mounting, and this is over and above even body-worn video, in-car video, the amount of digital evidence that we're just getting from members of the public. Of course, you know, everybody's got a camera on their front porch, CCTV video, the amount that we're getting into our police service is just continuing to increase. Other changes that are happening, diversion of persons in custody from the criminal justice system. We are looking at expanding our use of third-party resources, and I'll talk a little bit about that with our operations review. And with some of our reviews, we are also looking at further civilianization so we can get police officers focused on their core duties and responsibilities supported by our civilian members. So we entered into doing two projects over the last year and a half. One is the Administrative Staffing Alignment Project that we call ASAP because we love our acronyms. that focused on centralizing our disclosure processes, which is the commitment in our strategic business plan, ensuring we have good oversight and dedicated people ownership of those processes, direct link and relationship building with our Crown's office. This also allowed us to ensure that we have teams working together on disclosure. They're trained to the same standards, they follow the same processes, and we were able to build a digital disclosure team which supports digital evidence management and that system, which was the big change brought last year when we went to that platform. The operations review is the court security and prisoner care and control. We looked at centralizing our special constable team that provides prisoner care and control, civilianizing further supervision in our courts area, which allows us to redeploy sergeant resources to the front line. It also gives our special constables career paths. And this is also following some of the best practice that other services have implemented in their court areas. We are issuing a new request for vendors for our front entrance screening and security support for private security use at 85 Frederick. The province did a best practices review using Goss Gilroy. We also, through a competitive process, had Goss Gilroy help us with the operations review. And our use of kind of a blended model of special constables working with sworn officers and private security has actually been pointed out as a best practice at the provincial level. And we're looking to continue that and further have private security supporting our special constables as well as our sworn members. So we have a blend of resources in the court security space. Some of the other changes we are making is looking at how we better support virtual appearances and rebalance our staffing between our court security requirements at 85 Frederick and our central cell block. And because there has been impact to prisoner numbers due to the pandemic, we are making sure we have an even distribution of staffing across those two areas to not only support our new central cell block facility, but also change our processes so that we're able to alleviate some of the burden that frontline officers experience when they're bringing persons into our cell block. We can get them out faster and onto the road faster. So some of the benefits we have seen through the administrative staffing alignment project, which was implemented in June of this year, the operations review we are starting to implement now with the goal of having some of the major changes made in March of next year and continuing to monitor and make improvements throughout the course of 2023. We are already seeing some great wins in terms of streamlined processes, more training resources for our staff. We've brought teams together. We are now working on team building and skills development, but we're already seeing some of that balanced workload. We've created new teams, and we've done all of this without impacts to the police services budget. And that's really the results that you'll see throughout the rest of this presentation. Some of the other benefits, and I've already mentioned career options for our civilian members, which really helps us with attraction and retention of the great talent we have in our organization. It allows our members to do the full extent of their jobs. So for special constables, it allows them to focus on work that is related to their powers and their appointments. They become specialists in the use of our information management systems. Our changes we've already seen results in terms of stabilizing our supervision, organizational efficiencies, and it gives capacity to our police officers to focus on their core responsibilities. We even get to reduce administrative burden for them. One of our big goals is to reduce the amount of fail to appear charges and warrants and any other administrative charges into the system. And with our members better usually utilizing our information systems and technology, we also get great data quality benefits. Terms to impacts to budget, the administrative staffing alignment project allowed us to create that new team as well as some other support resources using existing FTEs at a cost avoidance of about not quite 1.1 million. The operations review ranges in terms of cost avoidance of some of the changes we can make in terms, again, of making new teams, redeploying or reallocating resources differently, as well as using third-party services ranging from about 1.95 million to 2.8. We won't see all of those cost avoidance realized right away because we are continuing to monitor prisoner numbers and making changes slowly and carefully to ensure that we always have a good, stable operation. But just from the operations review, as of next year, we're going to be seeing savings of about $2.3 million of cost avoidance, not savings, sorry, cost avoidance of about $2.3 million. So between both projects, that's $3.4 million in cost avoidance. In closing, I just really want to say I'm here speaking on behalf of a team who has really worked tirelessly to make these things happen. Thanks to our consultants at Goss Gilroy who assisted us with the operations review. And I really have to emphasize the hard work of Nancy Wittich, Cindy Klein, and Inspector Terry Turning, in particular, supported by our great manager of labor relations, Chris Nutt, who has made all of this happen. And that's my presentation for this morning. So if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them, or I'd also have to give a shout out to the deputy who's really empowered us to do all this work.
It's a very, very impressive overview of, I think the whole part about innovation is really struck home with me. So amazing that you've been able to do this. And I realize this isn't the only project you're all working on. So Kate, thank you very much for this overview. It's very exciting. And, you know, cost avoidance is something that I think we need to continue to measure because it sometimes feels a bit nebulous, but it does impact the bottom line and keep budgets from expanding. So thank you for this. This is very, very exciting. Colleagues, anybody have any comments or questions? Thank you very much. It was a very exciting good news report, and shout out to the entire team. Next agenda item is regulated interactions Q3. This too is for information, and Chief Goodman, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Redmond. I think we're online customer service.
Oh, shoot.
That's okay. No,
I
that's
jumped
fine.
right over that. I got so excited.
No,
Okay,
it's all good. Kate's excited to go again, so.
Okay, Kate, back at you, Kate. Online customer service platform. And this too is for information.
Yeah, so Angela Post, who is our records branch supervisor, is joining us this morning. I don't quite see her online.
I am here.
Oh, you are there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just attempting to get the presentation up and running here. So just bear with me 1 second.
So I'll just provide a little bit of an overview while Angie's getting geared up to share her screen. This presentation this morning is really focused on that goal I talked about in terms of customer service, as well as our ability to automate and alleviate administrative burden. The customer service unit within the records branch is really a testament to commitment to our public to provide streamlined real-time services in a variety of mediums. They've been doing a ton of work over the last 4 or 5 years to really modernize their services, and our new platform is another good story Angie will talk about this morning. So I will turn it over to the floor to the person who does all of this great work for our public every day. Angie, do you want to go?
You can see my screen there?
We can.
Okay, great. Good morning, Chair Redmond and members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today about our new online customer service system. So as a target goal of the current strategic business plan, our new customer service system offers a streamlined, completely electronic customer service experience. Previous to this, customers would have attended a police facility to make an application or apply online using our in-house record check system. For either method of application, the customer would have been required to attend a division to verify their identity and pick up their hard copy record check. For those requiring fingerprints, this could potentially have meant 3 different trips to our police buildings. The pandemic highlighted for us many areas of improvement for our process. The new system allows applicants to apply, verify identity, pay, and receive their record check electronically. Police record checks allow agencies to screen applicants for various purposes, such as employment and volunteer opportunities. Record checks are also required for things such as adoption, licensing, and name changes. While police record checks are an important part of the screening process, they are only one tool at the organization's disposal for screening purposes. In 2018, the Police Record Check Reform Act was brought into force in Ontario to provide consistency and standards to govern police record checks. The Act regulates what information police agencies release and the type of record checks offered. This creates a familiar and dependable product for organizations with consistent information from any police service across the province. In order to process a record check, we queried the applicant name and date of birth against multiple police databanks. If the applicant has a criminal record housed in the RCMP's CPIC database, fingerprints are required to match the person to that record before we can release the information on their record check. Customers may also require fingerprints to eliminate them as being a person that has received a record suspension for a sexual offense when working with the vulnerable population. Matching to that database is only based on gender and date of birth, not name. At WRPS, we process approximately 42,000 record checks a year. We have incrementally enhanced our process over the past few years, continually improving customer service to the community. In 2017, we launched an online record check system where the applicant could apply and pay online. In 2019, we simplified our fingerprinting process by adding fingerprint readers to our customer service counter, creating a less invasive process and saving the customer time. Finally, in 2021, through a competitive process, we procured a new customer service system through Rogue Data to provide a fully electronic process to the customer. Throughout these many enhancements, Waterloo Regional Police has delivered improved service delivery while maintaining some of the lowest fees amongst our comparators. Although WRPS had a well-functioning and arguably efficient process for record checks, the COVID-19 pandemic underscored some significant areas for improvement to keep us functioning in a world with less in-person interaction. The main areas highlighted were the need to be able to serve customers that could not make it into our police buildings. Therefore, electronic ID verification and electronic returns of record checks stood out as requirements rather than nice to haves. We also recognized the need to be agile and keep improving service delivery to make it simple, secure, and efficient for all involved, removing any barriers and creating a more concise, streamlined process. With the online platform, we are able to offer 24/7 service delivery, and we anticipate a quicker turnaround time because we have automated our internal queries in the police databanks I spoke of earlier. Electronic identity verification and returns has been introduced to deliver a simple method for the customer to receive a record check. With this new system, the only in-person interactions are facilitated for an accommodation of some sort. So any member of the public needing an accommodation under the OHRC is directed to contact the police reporting center for assistance. So for example, vulnerable persons that do not have access to online services or persons who are encountering strong language barriers and may need extra assistance. Other reasons for an in-person visit would be if the applicant has failed to verify their identity, or if the applicant needs fingerprints as required by the federal government to either confirm a criminal record or as elimination prints for a match to someone in the vulnerable sector screening process. Once we realize the efficiencies of the new platform, we plan to get record checks back to applicants within 5 business days. We were at this standard prior to the pandemic and expect to have it back in place once we work through final implementation of the platform. We also plan to post our turnaround time on the WRPS website for members of the public to retrieve that information in an easy manner. With the implementation of this new and improved process, we are proven leaders in the world of police record checks and have created a best-in-class service model that many police services will be looking to. We are already experiencing many benefits to the customer since implementing the Rogue Data model. The new paperless procedure allows for stronger security around privacy protection for the customer. Rogue Data offers an IT technical support team to help the customer with any system issues. The majority of customers will not have to attend a police building or deliver their record check in person to the agency. Instead, they are able to forward their record check via email. There is now only one process for applying for and receiving a record check. And those required to come for fingerprints will only have to make one visit, and it will be a considerably quicker processing time for those customers as well. For next steps, we are working to add other public-facing forms such as access to information or freedom of information requests, file closures, record suspensions, and internal background checks. We will add a survey at the end of the application, so we will be able to assess customer satisfaction with the process, identify any difficulties so we are able to make updates as needed, and gain information on social identity data for things such as language developments. We will make decisions on language translation in conjunction with our community partners, such as the Volunteer Action Center, as well as our own Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office before proceeding with any additions to the platform. We also plan to build into the system metrics that allow us to gain feedback about our customers and who they are, and adjust our service delivery accordingly. Next year, we will reevaluate our fee structure to assess the impact the platform and the new changes to the legislation have had on our cost for service. We are very excited about this new system and what it offers our customers in the region of Waterloo. And this here is our team of record check specialists who have worked hard to implement the many changes over the past few years and also deliver customer service excellence to our public on a daily basis. Thank you for your time.
So Angie and Kate, thank you so much for that. Deputy Krell, I skipped right over you. Do you want to make any comments? Sorry, this is, again, another amazing good news item. Best in class. It's giving us all bragging rights. Deputy, did you want to add any comments?
I'll be brief. It's just to be immensely proud of the team. There's many members have contributed to this, and just speaks to our commitment to the community. When you consider how many volunteers and those who require these services for employment and so on within our region, it's crucial we get this right. And so through the pandemic and through all these initiatives, the team collectively has just done an immense effort to bring us to a very proud point. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Karen, go ahead.
Thank you. Both presentations I found, super interesting, and they're the ones that actually have a big impact and yet doesn't sometimes have, the public external facing profile, but, equally interesting in terms of what we're looking at. I was really, you sort of preempted one of my questions. I was going to ask about the multilingual piece to it. So I think it's nice to see that as we scale this, there's going to be that opportunity for that, because the more diverse we can get in terms of the number of language and accessibility in terms of people being able to access those forms through our online portals, I think are important. I have sort of a weird question, which is, does this completely replace the in-person thing? So if there are people that, for whatever reason, and I realize it's spectacularly less efficient, but for whatever reason, feel more comfortable going and doing this in person, is that still a channel for them, or does this completely supplant that?
Go ahead, Angie or Kate.
Go ahead, Angie.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't completely replace it if there is a need there. We certainly try and triage that so that word of mouth is obviously the best way for people to find out how to get things. So we tend to triage it quite well. But if certainly somebody needs to come in and they need our help in person, then we direct them in.
It's just always nice. There's an avenue. I think, over time we'll see people have more and more comfort. Some people just, aren't as comfortable using online forums and the internet as others, and still there's that comfort level with still going in and talking to a person. So I just was curious about that. Thank you.
I'm really thrilled to see that there's a feedback loop for people using it, and the fact that we'll reassess this, because it to me just speaks of the commitment to continuous improvement. So while we may be best in class, and again, just kudos to everybody who has worked on this, we're going to keep getting better. So congratulations on a job well done. So Chief, now we're going to talk about regulated interactions Q3 for information, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chair Redmond. Yeah, this should be a quick presentation too, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Williams.
Hello again, everybody. So this will be a quick one as we had no regulated interactions happening over the last quarter.
That is probably a land record for quick updates. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Thank you, Chief. Chief Special Constable report, and there is a motion to approve special appointments. So I'll back over to you, Chief.
Right, and then I'm going to turn it right over to Mark, and he can introduce this one.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, quick as well, Madam Chair. It just we're looking for to approve the recommendation that the 2 following special constables be appointed pursuant to Section 53 of the PSA from Wilfrid Laurier University, Chelsea Neal and Cherise Rawlings. They have met the required training and qualifications for these positions. So looking forward to this recommendation being adopted.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this motion? Moved by Tony, seconded by Karen. Please indicate with a raising of hands if you are supportive. That is great. Thank you very much, colleagues. That is adopted. The next agenda item is the one that was added to our agenda. This is a voice radio system agreement. And there is a motion to approve entering into a voice radio agreement with all 8 municipalities in Waterloo region. And Chief, do you want to kick this off?
Yep, we're going to turn this right over to Gary, and he can talk about it.
Welcome, Gary.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. I too will be relatively brief, but will not beat Dr. Williams' record. But this report that's before you, it's really just a 3-parter, and it brings to an end, or one could say a new start, of the voice radio system that our service has led with and will continue to lead with. This is an integrated system that will allow for other emergency services and other partners, including the light rail transit, to have voice radio services that are all integrated in one area. The result of that is the need to have a series of approvals, the first one being the entering into of the actual voice radio agreement with the other 8 municipalities. And that is, of course, subject to the satisfaction of the board's retained solicitor, in this case, Mr. Steve Grant, and all the other municipalities have retained outside counsel as well. So it was very efficient. I can tell you that the voice radio team had to first concentrate on bringing the system online and replacing the old one. And then there were a lot of mechanics that had to take place. But over the last few months, we've done a lot of work to get this to where it is. And through the leadership of the chief and Deputy Crowell, we're at a point where we're recommending that we enter into this agreement. There are just some fine tuning that's taking place, signature lines, those sort of things on the actual voice radio agreement. But we certainly don't anticipate that being any issue. And then as a result of the voice radio agreement coming online, in our leadership, there is a necessity for a transfer agreement from the region to us. Practically, almost all of this has taken place, if I can say, just because the practical world often leads. And that's something that we would do, and that would be subject to the board solicitor, Mr. Schelling's satisfaction, but I'll be working with a member of the regional legal team on that, along with the necessity for transfer agreements. And those are the example of that. The easiest one is towers. In order to have a radio system, you need to have a series of towers, and you either lease or license them. We have some of our own, and we have some that we use for third parties. So as part of that, we just have to transfer. But we always knew renew that, and through great forethought on the part of regional legal, while we were doing this transition and they were renewing licenses and leases, we put in place terms that allowed for an easy assignment of that to the board. So that would just allow Ms. Hand, as your Chief Purchasing Officer, to sign any necessary documentation to do that. So in essence, that's what we're looking at from the approval. This really is the legal component of what is really a public safety matter with respect to the radio system throughout the region of Waterloo.
So thank you very much for that. And I just want to acknowledge a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of relationship building has happened to get us to this point in time. So the entire community will benefit from this. And we're in debt of all you hardworking people that made all of this happen. I don't see any questions. So colleagues, could I have a mover and a seconder to enter into this agreement? Moved by Rosita, seconded by Carl. Please indicate your support by raising your hand. That is carried. Thank you, colleagues. Next agenda item is monthly Chief of Police report. So over to you, Chief Goodman.
Thank you, Chair Redmond, and thank you to the team today. I mean, some excellent presentations, and it's nice to hear their voices. They are the subject matter experts, and that's who you need to hear from on these different subjects. The team put together with me today, this week a Chief's report, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go off, and those who know me will understand where I'm coming from. September 12th, Constable Andrew Hong, Toronto Police Service. October 11th, Constable Devin Northrup, Constable Morgan Russell, South Simcoe Police. October 18th, Constable Shayla Yang, RCMP, Burnaby, BC. We are in unprecedented times right now, folks. Never have we had 4 officers slain in the line of duty in such a short period of time. Our membership at the Waterloo Region Police Service have been fantastic during these times. Their resiliency, their ability to put this behind them, to come into work, to understand their purpose, to get out there and do the job that they signed up to do has been fantastic. And you need to know that. And you need to know that we've had a lot of great support from members of our community who have reached out to me personally, have reached out to the membership, and they have reached out to the service as well to supply support. It's important that the people on this call today, those who are sitting here, those who are home streaming, are also sending their support to our membership. They need to hear your voices. They need to hear that they're loved and that the work they are doing is good work for the community. This is a very unique profession. This is not a job. This is a calling. The people who put on these uniforms every single day are guardians of your community. The slaying of these 4 officers never should happen. The men and women who put the uniform on every day come to work to protect you, to serve you. They run into dark places. They run into rooms where they don't know what's on the other side of the door. And they're doing tremendous work each and every day. I have never been prouder to be a member of the Waterloo Police Service with the work that our people are currently doing. So I'd ask you to reach out if you have an opportunity and thank them for the work that they're doing each and every day. I turn over to you, Chair Redden, for words if you have any.
Thank you, Chief. And I do, I would have to say that I can't think of many other services that operate 24/7, 365 days a year. And our membership of WRPS are the ones that go towards danger when the rest of us go the other way. Our community is safe and feels safe because of the work that they do every day. I often say at badging ceremonies that not only are our recruits and the people that come into WRPS impressive, but they really are choosing a lifestyle, not a profession. It impacts them and their families. I can't imagine the sense of loss in all of those communities for the officers who were slain. As a member of the community, as a member of this police board, I was absolutely recoiled at it and just heartbroken for the loss and the deliberate targeting of uniformed officers. There is no doubt that policing is complex, that it's difficult. And as you've already pointed out, Chief Goodman, I see our officers on foot, on bicycles, in cars, entering into places, doing outreach to very difficult members of our community to make sure that those individuals have the help and the service they need, and that the rest of our community are safe. So on behalf of the board, on behalf of my role at the region, we are in debt of WRPS, the officers, the uniform, and the civilian who make sure that services are available and that we are safe and feel safe. So on behalf of the board, please accept our heartfelt thanks and our concern for the welfare of officers that are seeing colleagues and communities that are hurting. I reached out to Lynn Dolan, who is the mayor of Innisfil, and she talked about the fact that their whole community was reeling. These are deaths that impact entire communities, and specifically to families, friends, and to fellow officers. So our heartfelt thanks for all you do each and every day, and to the entire service.
Thank you for the kind words, Chair Redmond. We'll get those passed around. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So colleagues, I don't see any new business. There are members of the media, if you'd like to stay online on this Zoom call or log in. Chief Goodman will be available for questions. And having no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Carl, seconded by Tony. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, colleagues, for